Alright, I'd like to talk about RGB cables for PS1. You might have noticed that they cost quite a bit of money. For PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3, you got cheaper options and much more common options, such as, the YPBPR component cables that you can get, and they provide really good video quality. But those don't work on the PlayStation 1. So some of the official Sony PlayStation 1 cables, RGB cables, go for around $100 to $200, which is just ridiculous for a cable. But I thought, is there a better way, a cheaper way to obtain that? Of course, you could also go to custom cable makers such as Retro Gaming Cables and other reputable teams that are servicing these cables, putting them together with proper shielded cables, and have really good video quality. And then there are also those Pro cables, mainly for PlayStation 3, which are, well, sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But I did some experiments in the past, and so far I've been using this cable right here. This is the cheap, crappy, pretty much unshielded SCART cable you can get off of AliExpress or eBay. Just, the cheapest Chinese crap for around 4 USD or something like that. 3 to 4 USD. What I did was I opened up the, this one's a bit dirty, sorry about that, it's just, sticky residue. I opened up the connector, and then I basically made this cable into a sync on Luma cable. What that means is all of these cables use composite as the sync signal. So RGB requires the 3 color signals, red, green, blue, plus it requires an external sync as well. And the external sync is usually derived from the composite signal, which is not a very good quality solution, but it's, well, I don't know. It's what everyone does. And to get slightly better video quality, you can take that composite pin inside this connector and then move it over to the Luma pin. This one does have the pin for it, so it will basically just get sync off of the Luma pin, and that worked really well. It does give you pretty good video quality, although there's still a bit of slight bleeding because of the nature of the cable. It doesn't have very good shielding, but it does get rid of the checkerboard pattern that you see on solid colors, for example. Alternatively, you can also use C-Sync, but that will also not help the crappy quality of the cable. So I thought to myself, what's a good, cheap alternative to getting good RGB quality out of the PlayStation 1? And here comes the aforementioned component cables for the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3. Now you might be wondering, well, that's not going to work on the PS1, but you'd be wrong. We just have to wire it up quite right. You see, this cable is just a component cable. It just delivers whatever's being sent to it. It doesn't matter what kind of signal it is. Let me show you the pinout for the PlayStation. Let me turn this off. Let me show you the pinout for the PlayStation Multi-AV out. This one doesn't actually show the alternative options here because this is for the PlayStation 1. But if you look at the PlayStation 2s, you can see how it says red/PR, blue/PB, and green/Y plus C sync. So what that means is on the PlayStation 2 and 3, these pins are shared between RGB and YPBPR, and the system's option determines which one's being sent out. So what that means essentially is that on the PlayStation 1, or if we set the PS2 to RGB mode, it's essentially going to send out red, green, and blue through the YPBPR cables. So this cable is essentially going to act as an RGB cable, and you can even find similar cables online that have just the RCA ends at the end and claim to be an RGBS cable. And you could use them for example, professional monitors that have the RGB and sync signals or inputs broken out into 4 BNC connectors. That would be red, green, blue, and sync. So you might be wondering, how does that work? Because potentially you have a component cable and that does not have a composite video output. Now that's the problem. You need a cable that does. So the official Sony component cables don't actually have a separate composite output. So the way this works is on a PlayStation 2, this sends out YPBPR and you also get composite. So that's pretty cool, because what that means is we can just hook RGB to these 3 wires, and then this will be the sync. And since this is actually a really decent cable, this is a SpeedLink component cable I bought in 2010 for my PlayStation 2. It actually is designed for PlayStation 3, but works perfectly fine on PlayStation 2 and will work on the PS1 as well. This is actually really nicely shielded and grants about the same video quality as the official Sony component cables. So actually this is a really, really nice cable. So I thought, I don't want to butcher it. I don't want to like cut this off and then turn it into a SCART end. You could do that, but it wouldn't be as nice. So I thought, what's the other options? How do you turn this into SCART? Because that's what my scaler uses. And then I had an idea. Remember these things? These are these European people remember this one. This is just a SCART to composite adapter. So you basically, this is given to your PlayStation 1 and 64, what have you. You just plug it into your TV. If it doesn't have AV composite inputs right away, and then just plug the composite wires into it, like so. Now, some of these are not that great for this mod that I'm about to do. This one is perfect because it has all the pins on it. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to try to open this up. Not sure how it opens, but we'll figure it out. Open this up, and then I want to wire these 3 RCA jacks to RGB. The color coding doesn't really matter. I'll put like a tape on it to know which one is which. But this is the idea. I want internally to disconnect these 3 RCA jacks from the corresponding pin, which would be composite and the left and right audio. Just basically disconnect those and then plug in, I connect them to the corresponding RGB pins. You just have to look up the pin out for SCART and then connect them up. So what that will do is it will basically send the RGB signal through this little thing here instead of the composite video and stereo audio. And since I'm using a SCART switch, I can just plug this one and these 2 into the right connectors. So just plug this into the composite connector, plug this into the audio connector, and that's that. Because my SCART switch has a separate RCA input on it that's basically shared between all the inputs. So you don't have to like switch it or anything. It will automatically send the sync signal to this input. You could also just use 2 of these and then, one modified for RGB, and then the other one is just a straight, composite video and audio for sync. Now, I don't know what kind of video quality this will produce because PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 composite isn't the best, so I'm not sure if this is going to have any checkerboard pattern on uniform colors, but we'll see. The thing is, though, you could technically, I guess, open it up, or if you have like a one that doesn't have the composite pin, you could technically add it to it. You could even hook it up to Luma and then have better video quality. You could open it up and modify it for sync on Luma, but I don't want to open this up. This is such a nice cable. We'll see what the video quality is going to be like. Even if it's not too good, doesn't matter, because I have a C-Sync PlayStation 1, and this wire will not be transmitting composite video. It will be transmitting C-Sync. So that's that problem solved as well. I guess you could also build a sync separator for this to get C-Sync, but I'm not going to do that because I already have a C-Sync PS1. So that's the plan. I'm going to try to open this one up and then wire it up to the right pins. Alright, I got inside. So this is what it looks like after removing the the plastic cover. So this is the composite pin. This goes over here. That's the composite video input, and that's the ground for it. And the rest of it is just audio. So we do indeed have 6 wires, so that's perfect. They're very short, so not really going to have like a massive video quality loss just because they're kind of flimsy. It doesn't really matter. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to have to move each of these into, starting from pin 5, these 6 pins right here. So what it is this is pin 5. That's the blue ground. Pin 7 is blue in. Pin 9 is green ground. Pin 11 is green input. Pin 13 is red ground. Pin 15 is red input. So I'm just going to go ahead and solder all of these into the right places, and then we'll go from there. Now this isn't the easiest thing to solder to, so because it doesn't have those sticking out terminals, one of those would have been more optimal if those even exist in this form. But anyway, this probably requires some kind of tool to like crimp them, because they were only crimped, they weren't soldered in, but whatever. I managed to solder them in with a bit of struggling and put a bit of hot glue on it. So I don't usually do that, but whatever. It was kind of just for security. But this isn't really going to move around much anyways. Alright, so now it's time to put it back together and test it out. Here we go. I broke a tab when opening it up, so I secured it with some electrical tape. And time to label it. So color's not gonna match. Doesn't really matter. When you have the component plugs plugged into it, will you see it? No. Alright. So this is gonna be R. Red's gonna be green. And white's gonna be blue. RGB. Let's test it out. Here we have it, the component cable plugged into the PS1. And it goes over here to my SCART switch box. There's the adapter. There goes the RGB. And there is the composite video right there, as well as the audio plugged into this, separate RCA input. Looks good. There's there's 2 problems. One with the whole setup. It won't work on a CRT television. This will only work with a scaler, such as a GBS is what I'm using. Because you'll have to supply a 1 to 3 volt power source on the sense pin, which enables RGB mode. So on the CRT, there's just nothing. Also, another thing, but that's just with my construction, is that there's a slight issue with the colors here. It's just pretty much I was using a crappy composite to SCART adapter. If I was using one that's easier to solder to, the color issue wouldn't be present. But I'm pretty happy with this. The video quality is pretty good. So I've made a couple modifications. I've rebuilt the thing because it was kind of dodgy quality. I've kept the same box, but I've replaced the SCART connector with one that was easier to solder to. So I've resoldered all the wires to the SCART connector, and I've actually added 3 220 microfarad capacitors, which is actually required for the PS1 SCART cable. I forgot about that. So they're added into the box because the component cable obviously doesn't have that. So it's just wired up to the RGB lines. So it goes to the capacitor and then to the SCART connector. So I've done that, and it's better soldering, so it doesn't have any connection issues anymore, no color issues. And well, this is just kind of a feature. This is the sense line. So I could technically wire up 5 volts to this because actually there was a resistor on the SCART connector, so I could just wire up 5 volts and my TV would recognize it, but I haven't done it yet. So anyways, this thing just plugs in here. Just like that. And there's the sync cable, the composite wire, and the audio wires next to it. Right there. There it is. This is running off of my C-Sync modded PS1. So, looks pretty good. Alright, I've switched over to direct capture so I can show you the quality a bit better. I just wanted to quickly show you what it looks like, what the cable looks like with just an unmodified PS1. But now I'm actually switching over to my C-Sync modded PS1. So it's running with the SpeedLink component cable, and the sync is coming from the composite cable. And let's take a look at it. As you can see, the dot crawling composite noise is completely gone from the Sony logo. And the PlayStation logo looks nice and sharp. And I can't really see any bleeding. This is Alien Resurrection in the system. This is pretty much the best video quality I got out of the PS1 so far. Component looks really good on the PS2, might be BPR, but this one looks pretty good as well. I'm pretty happy with it. And now let's take a look at a little bit of Driver 1 gameplay.
Truth is, Tanner, 3 years...
Hey, man, watch the thing. You crazy? You the man. We gonna need you.
You have one new message.